Hi, it's Jared from Strongroots Farm. Today on the farm, we are going to answer the question, can you spread wood chips directly onto pastures? There's a lot of naysayers about this. There's a lot of negativity. I'm going to talk about it. Stick around. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today, I'm going to cover this. Okay, we're doing a test right now. Can we spread wood chips on a field directly onto pastures? So I'll answer the why. Why would I even do that? I'll go through that. I'm going to talk about the things that people say why not to do this. And some of it I don't think is very logical. Some of it I think we've gotten too used to spreading fertilizer basically. Well-balanced, triple 12s, whatever we're going to put on. And there's reasons they say you should not do this. So I'll go over all those reasons and talk to you about what I think is valid and what is not valid. I'm also going to talk to you about, is there a better way? Should I be spreading this wealth of wood chips that I have? And you'll understand why when I give you the whys. So let's get going. So first off, I'm going to start with the whys. Why would I take perfectly good wood chips, bedding essentially, and just spread it on my pastures? Well, one, I'm overrun with it. And so here's a shot of this side. So it is probably a good 45, 50 feet wide, every bit of 14 feet high. And then it just keeps going. And the weeds have kind of grown up. They've been dumping so long and it just keeps going and going. It's probably 35, 40 feet deep now. So we've got a bunch of wood chips. Moreover, the tree companies are continuing to dump here. They're bringing me at least one truckload a day, sometimes two. I've seen 3 loads in a day on a Saturday before. So they're bringing me a bunch of these wood chips. So why don't I just tell them to stop? Because when I tell them to stop, they never come back. They find somebody else that's willing to take them. And if it's a good place, like we have a lot of gravel, they can turn around. It's a good place to dump. If they find another good place, they're going to go with the guy who says it's okay to dump as much as you want. And so I don't want to shut it off because I was in dire need of this. I shut it off one time before and it took them 2 years to come back to me to start dumping again. So we have done the necessary normal things. We filled our barns. I filled the feedlot. We put 6 inches down everywhere. I'm completely ready for winter. Then we still had more. And then I put them around all my flower beds. I mulched my entire property. Every flower bed is nicely mulched now. We had trees in the woods. We covered all those. We have some trees around the house. We put them around all those. So I've used as many as I can think to use and use it well in good places. Now I just got to keep up with them coming. So now that's why I'm in this situation. My next step is to make a Facebook post for people local here and offer some wealth. I'll give them to you. I just don't want to shut the tree company off. I don't mind to share. And so that's kind of my next step. But we're coming up on Labor Day weekend here. I don't want to work during Labor Day weekend. We're going to go camping with my family. And also the other reason why we're doing this is because we're trying to rebuild the pasture farm. If you've watched my pasture videos, we're trying to rebuild a farm that's right next door to us that we are now leasing that has been soybeans row crops for 20 years. And so the soil is dead. It's chemically necessary to put stuff on that field now because it will not sustain a crop without chemical inputs anymore. Now we've done a good job of spreading manure and building those up if you've watched any of those videos, and we've been doing some different tests. But the organic matter on that farm is less than half of the organic matter on my farm. So I'm looking for a way to build organic matter very quickly. So we're using the cattle and grazing, we're spreading manure over there, and we're spreading these wood chips. Now I will take you over, show you how thick we're putting them, what we're doing, and I'll show you us spreading this when we go over to take this load. But first I want to talk about what people says you shouldn't do and why you should not do this. So first off, this is not a balanced organic matter going out as far as nutrients. The NPK of a pile of wood chips is not a perfect balance. I'm aware. Trees can be too acidic. So they have more acid. They're not a pH of 7 or 6.5. They're a little more in the 4s and 5s. So if you already have acidic pastures that need lime, you're gonna enhance that more. You're gonna add more of that over time. Now, we plan to combat that with other things. I'll talk about that in a bit. But there's some people that say you cannot spread wood chips on a field because it will just kill the grass. They're so acidic, they'll just kill all your pastures. You can't do it. That's a lie. I've already tested this before I looked dumb on a video. We spread on a part of a pasture, which I'm gonna show you, about 3 weeks ago, very lightly, just to see what could happen. And they're immensely different compared to the pasture next to it where there was nothing. I will tell you we're in a drought. I haven't had rain in 6 weeks. So that has some play to it, okay? But I'm looking to increase organic matter to hold in the rain whenever it comes. So that's why we're doing it. And I think they're wrong when they say you can't do this. It does not help because it doesn't make logical sense to me. How can I take an organic material, natural trees? These are trees from roadsides and stuff. They're trimming up the power lines. Take a natural material, break it down with a machine. So it goes through a wood chipper, breaks it down with a machine. It is a mixture of live and dead limbs. So some of those limbs are dying. They're taking down the dead trees. And it also has a lot of leaf compound in it. So we're in the summer, and I think that's an important part to know about what type of wood chips I'm spreading on my field. These are summer trimmings. So these piles that are going in are about half leaves. It's about half of this mixture is leaves that have been chopped up that I'm putting on the field. So you're getting some green in the leaves and your brown is the wood if you're looking at a C to N ratio of a compost. So how can I take a natural material like that and put it on a field and it destroy my soil? That doesn't make logical sense to me. I've also had other people tell me you cannot bed cattle with wood chips. It'll poison them, it'll hurt their feet, they'll get diseases in their feet. You shouldn't even do sheep or goats or anything. You shouldn't use wood chips for bedding. Well, I'll tell you, I know for a fact that is incorrect. And there is some warning here, so I'm gonna clarify that in a second. But I know for a fact, I've been bedding with wood chips for at least a decade. They're much cheaper, because they're free, than straw or old hay. And we do use some of that. We do use some straw. Obviously, if we're feeding hay, the old nasty hay that they won't eat, whatever's in the bottom of a ring, whatever gets mixed in with our wood chips. The end result, wood chips plus manure plus old hay, makes the best compost, the best fertilizer I've ever spread on my pastures. So I don't see any issue with putting these wood chips on. Now let me tell you about the warnings and how you combat that. Okay, so there are some trees. There are some trees that are toxic to cattle and other animals at certain times. Depending where you live, those trees are gonna be different. In my area, the main tree in my area that everybody looks out for is cherry trees. We have some natural cherries around here, not like your orchard cherry trees where you're harvesting cherries. They will produce a similar type fruit off of it, but they're not your perfect cherries that you put on a sundae, understand? We have cherry trees though, like cherry wood that they would make furniture out of. Those leaves, when they fall, and they fall to the ground and they're still green and they're beginning to wilt, they release a chemical that is toxic to cattle. So cattle can get by eating green leaves off of a cherry tree and be okay. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend letting them do that, but they can be okay. Once the leaf is completely brown and dead, they can eat the leaf if they choose to, or they can touch the leaf. It's not like poison ivy to them. So there is some worry about that. How do I combat that, and how will you combat that with other trees? But it's cherry in our area. So I combat that in two different ways. Right now, when I'm putting out wood chips in the summer, if I put wood chips out, I use a manure spreader, which by the way, is the best way. These things don't spread as easy as straw. They'll kind of clump up if you're just using the bucket of a tractor. The manure spreader puts like a perfect 3-inch layer of wood chips down in my feedlot or around our barns and in our barns. The manure spreader is awesome for this. So I'll put these wood chips down in the summer. When you only put an 1 to 3 inch layer of wood chip down, the heat from the air, it's hot in the summer, gets to the leaves very quickly. They wilt and brown very quickly. So if I had a brand new load dumped today and it was solid cherry trees, I could spread that out in a feedlot, and in 2 days, those leaves are no more, maybe 4 days at the most, are no more risks to me. So what I'm doing is, the cattle aren't really up here around the barns. I have a couple that we're feeding up here, but I'll spread it out and I just make sure I don't put cattle on them for a week. Stay safe. And they're all gone. The other thing is the cattle aren't going to stick their nose down in and eat old dead leaves on the ground when there's luscious green grass to eat. And if I had to feed hay, they would still choose hay over those leaves. The risk for cherry in our area is when you let cattle into the woods during the fall and your vegetation is light and the tree looks greener and luscious more than the grass that you're actually feeding them. So that's how I combat the wood chip issue in the summer. Now in the winter, I don't have to worry about that typically as much unless I was getting loads of chips in the winter. So if I'm getting loads of chips in the late fall, when leaves are just starting to wilt and it's cherry, that's really my only risky time. So these summer leaves that are being dumped, they're now composting. I am now in where we're taking right now and putting into our manure spreader stuff that's probably been here for 2 to 3 weeks. All the stuff that was dumped this week, we've already spread out on the field. And you can see there's no green leaves left. We flopped it back. Everything has broke down enough because there's so many leaves that the composting effect, natural effect of being piled like this, rain, C and N, breaks them down, and I no longer have to worry about that cherry leaf. And that's what happens in the winter. Now, stuff that they get chipped in the winter or in the late fall after the leaves have fallen, I don't have to worry about either because the leaves fell to the ground and they chipped the wood chips. And in fact, those are better wood chips for bedding because they don't have a lot of the leaf compound in them. Whereas this stuff, it will soak up manure, and it will build great compost, but it doesn't soak in as much as a straight wood chip that gets dried out. Last point here, is there a better way? Could I do this differently? Yes, and I will admit this is not the best method. You get a pile of wood chips like this and you want to spread them on your field because you've got more than you can bed with that year. What's kind of the best way to do it? Simply leave them here. You may even turn them once, turn them into a better compost. Especially with all that leaf compound in there, they're going to break down into a nice mulch, right? Over time. It may take a year, but wait a year, they'll break down more. Turn them once or twice, aerate them, they'll break down even more, and then they're going to be even better for your soil, and it's going to have a better NPK ratio. It's going to balance itself out over time. So this is really future compost. It's just rough right now, but I'm spreading it because of the dilemma we're in with having so much, and I'm looking to boost that organic matter very, very quickly on that new farm. And of course, the best way to spread these on your field is to mix them with manure. Actually use them for bedding. You mix that with manure, bed down with it all winter long, take it out throughout the year, throughout the winter, pile it up, whatever you do. Whether you clean your barn once a spring or whether you clean it throughout the whole winter, pile them up in an area. This mixed with manure, composted down for a month or 2, 3 at the most, is amazing for your pastures. That's a way better way to use these wood chips than what I'm currently doing, but you know why. Let's go take a look at the pasture. I want you to see this. I'll show you spreading these if you want to see me how I'm doing it, but I want you to see how thick I'm doing it, and I will show you the pasture that we did 3 weeks ago. Okay, so you kind of saw how it was spreading, just kind of help you with this. Our tractor is a 6-speed, so I have A and B, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going in A3, so like the fastest of the low gear range. And I have moved my manure spreader speed, not to the fastest notch, but almost the fastest notch. We usually spread manure in like 2, and I'm on 4 now, so twice as fast as we spread manure. So it just comes out quicker, but you saw how high we had that piled. Let's look what it looks like on the ground. So you can see here, it's not thick. It's not covering the grass by any shape or form. And it's, as you look down at the actual composition of it, there's plenty of wood, but then you'll see all this leaf matter that's kind of ground up into it and grasses. But I'm not covering the grasses. It's falling down in between the grasses, and this is probably one of the thicker areas where it's actually spread because it was the very beginning of the row. So enough that it's spreading it, you know, pretty thick, getting it out there on it, getting enough organic matter out, but not enough to cover the grass. I want it to fall down in between the grasses. Okay, so we'll look at what I did 3 weeks ago and what I think is going to happen now. And so this pasture behind me, everything that I'm going to show you was baled at the exact same time, 3.5 weeks ago or something like that. This field here is our best pasture, so it should be looking better. And this little dip, and this is why I'm showing you this kind of plot. We have kind of a high area here behind me, and then it kind of rolls down into this, and the water comes this way, and then it kind of slowly levels back out. So you would think that if it was due to rain, this dark section, or this section right here, would be way darker, okay? And we are in a drought, like I said, 6 weeks, no rain. Pastures aren't looking awful. It looks a little greener when I'm looking into the camera here than when I look out. When I look out here, it looks a little grayer and drier, and it definitely feels dry when I walk out and touch it. But this is what our pastures are looking like. 4 to 6 inches, maybe 7 inches in spots, grayish, dryish. That's what we're looking at with nothing done to it. So that's kind of our control, if you will. All right, behind me here was the first test. Baled the same day. It's obviously taller, and I don't know if you can tell it on film, but we have a good 3 inches more here than we did over there height-wise. But this field was striped. Okay, so I went around the whole outside of this, and then I went right here down the center with like 3 passes. So basically over there towards my fence, I had 3 passes. Right here, I had 3 passes. And over here towards my fence, I had 3 my finger won't move the right way. Let's see here. Whatever. Over there towards that fence, it's got 3 passes. But in the middle, so right there, and right here, right there where the tips of my fingers are, had nothing. Obviously, everything else was the same about this pasture. You can see, or at least I definitely can out here when I look at the field, this section here is greener. Lighter gray, greener. Lighter gray, greener. Only where I spread the wood chips, raw wood chips and leaves, it's greener. No rain. I even went this specific area because it's kind of higher up here, and then it starts to slope, and then it's lower down here. So it has kind of all 3 levels of the way water would run if we would have got any rain, or where rain water will travel down through the soil. You can tell a difference in the stripe. Now let's go look at the whole fields that I spread everything cover to cover. Now this field here that we're standing in, I did the same thing, except I went a little thicker on this field than I did my striped field. I went side by side by side in every row, and so some of those kind of get spread to the left and the right of the manure spreader like you see, and so they inevitably, because I did the entire thing, I got them a little thicker on this field than I did the one that I striped. It's significantly higher. I have a good 4 to 6 inches of more growth on this field in 3 weeks than I did my lush pasture, which is really a better pasture. If I had done nothing, that pasture out there would have been better than this. I got one more to show you, and it's kind of cheating here, but this is the one we just showed. And just across this little fence is just another lot of winter grazing. And this grass is even better. Like still green, much taller, clovers are coming back up, and I did the same thing. So what is different from here to there? And what it is one, we've got this ginormous shade tree. And I don't know if you can see it on film, but there's a big shaded area right out through here now. So this is getting less sun in the evening than these other pastures are. So therefore, less water leaving through heat. Also, any rain that we would have gotten runs off these barns and naturally kind of comes down through here. So this ground naturally gets more water and holds more water than pretty much everywhere else on my farm. So it makes sense to me that this grass looks a little better because it just gets more water, and we haven't had rain for 6 weeks. So that being said, if we're not in a drought, this would have worked better, I would have thought. Okay, so it is working very well out here. Grass isn't dead. All right, I've told you why we're doing it. I've told you there's better ways. This isn't the perfect method. I've told you the better ways that you can do it. And I've told you some of the things that people are saying about this. The one thing that I haven't proven wrong, so when they say that wood chips are very acidic, it will change the pH of your soil and damage your soil. One, I don't believe I'm going to do that because I'm not covering them thick, right? It's not a bunch out here. I'm just putting some, right? And we're going to combat that with manure and hay and stuff this winter, bringing it the other way. But in order to be logical and scientific, the only way I could prove that these wood chips are not harming my soil would have been with a soil sample. To take a soil sample before I spread, take a soil sample, 3 months after, and then 6 months, and show that the wood chips did not affect the pH. And I didn't do that. So it's purely observation, subjective observation. I will tell you, this isn't my first time doing this. I've done this many times, but usually I let them break down for a year, or we use it for manure all the time. And I'll show you that real quick. I want to show you kind of what it looks like in the feedlot. Now, if you watch my other videos, you probably already have seen this, but this is kind of our winter feed area, and we've got a good 3 to 4 inches everywhere out here. There's 18 inches of gravel underneath this, and that Tyvek, whatever it is, the fabric that we put underneath that for roads. And then we've got a good 6 inches in our barn. I got 3 round bales in there that were not the best grass that I'm going to plan on unrolling early in the season. So that's why they're there and not in my other barn. The only place we don't have is right here underneath this shed where our head gates go. And that's where our feeder is. So I don't want to put the wood chips underneath where we're going to feed. So when I put the head gates up, I'll bring some in with a scoop, spread them out with a pitchfork. So if they're eating and they poop, it'll collect those. But it's all spread out here. This is the way it looks. And there's one other negativity. You can see it right there with spreading wood chips like this. And that is trash. The tree workers throw their trash right up in the back of the truck. And so inevitably every truckload of wood chips that I get, there's 2 or 3 water bottles in it. I found entire Burger King bags with all their trash just thrown up in there. Can I complain about it? Yes. Am I going to? No, because I want them to keep coming. I got to keep these guys happy because I'm giving them a service. Yes, they have a place to dump. They need to dump. It's nice for them. I know that I'm giving them a service, but they're giving me a free, huge amount of carbon for my farm. And so it's very valuable to me. If I had to pay for straw and bedding, I'd have spent hundreds of dollars this year, and they're saving me that money. So what you have to do, we're going to spread this whole field, and then my kids will take the gator and they'll ride around the field. And usually the little one really likes that because the older brothers push him off the gator all the time, and he gets to drive when he does this. So he'll drive around the field, and inevitably that per acre, you're probably going to have 5 to 8 water bottles out there. They got flung out. We try to pull them out when we're loading, and every now and then there will be a log. You got to really watch that when you're loading your manure spreader because it could break a tooth or something in the beaters in the back. So I pay a close attention when I'm loading for if they would put a piece of wood up in there. We pull those out. But the trash, you just can't catch it all. And you have to drive around and pick up bottles and trash. And obviously there's a couple out here that my kids missed. That is one negative of dealing with a free product and dealing with these wood chip guys. I just found a rake. They'll throw anything in these trucks. There you have it. Hope that video helped. Got to see some things about what we're doing. I think it's a positive thing. Obviously, I would, if you can, always do it in the better ways that I suggested. But you know the situation we're in. You saw how thick we're spreading them, and I would spread it. If it was manure or broke down, I would spread it that same thickness on my fields. I tend to not listen to naysayers when they say, hey, you can't do something. If somebody tells me I can't do something and logically it doesn't quite make sense to me, I'm probably going to test it myself. And so I've done this test. I did this little pasture right here before I went and spread 6 acres of this stuff out there. And I've spread this in the past. So I had some prior experience. But one thing I will tell you, the reason I think it's not affecting my fields as much as somebody would say negatively about is because there's so much leaf compound in this summer wood chips. I think that really helps to kind of level out that balanced load and not just be high acidic, solid wood. They worry about it if it's all wood, they worry about it drawing nitrogen out of the ground. When you have cattle on pastures, they're dropping that nitrogen. Most of that is in urea through their urine. And so the wood and the higher organic matter collects that nitrogen and holds it. And that's what we're trying to increase by doing this. Hope that video helps. Hit that like button. Help us out a little bit here on our farm. It's been a few weeks since I had a good farm video. We've been really busy trying to get some stuff done, but I appreciate you watching. Follow along with us, like and subscribe if you don't already. And until next time, have a good one.
Please like the video and subscribe.